Okay, so let's get started. All right, guys, welcome to the Bearzi podcast. This is episode 25. I got my friend Joe, who is a freelance editor from Wyoming, Michigan. What's going on, bro? How you doing?
Doing pretty good, pretty good.
So we had a
Yeah.
couple technical difficulties
Yeah.
setting up the pod. So wait, so you don't use Google Chrome?
No, I'd say like 4 months ago I switched to Opera, and I just haven't switched back because you can do like picture in picture with Opera, which is nice. So
Wait, what's that? Picture in picture?
it's like if you had a YouTube video, you can like take it out and like put it in the corner of your screen like while you're doing something else. So I didn't have to like half my screen with Chrome.
Oh, kind of like how our phones do that with the YouTube app.
Yeah. hmm
Oh, Chrome doesn't have anything like that?
I
I
don't think
guess
so
not.
because yeah, when I first saw it on Opera, I was like, I didn't even know you could do that on like a computer.
Oh, that's hilarious. You know what's funny about that software Opera? I used that when I was in high school in like grade 10 computer science. And we had to use this is a long time ago. This is like the late
hmm
90s, like 1999 or something like that. And in high school, we had to use Internet Explorer through the
hmm
school, and all these websites would be blocked. And then one
Uh,
of my friends found this browser called Opera, and then we all downloaded it and we all installed it. We're all going on all these crazy websites in computer science class, right? Because everything is blocked.
yeah, yeah. That's always a fun thing in the modern age. Like at school, we are all given iPads and stuff, and obviously there's block stuff. So we'd try to find all kind of websites that could like do the same things, but were like alternates that the school didn't know about, like games we could find and stuff. That's always fun
Yeah,
to do.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's so funny. Well, also in my day, well, that sounds kind of weird, but like when I was in high school a long, long time ago, no one knew anything really about technology. Like internet was very basic, like in terms of speed. Like even during those times, I didn't even have high speed internet, and it was very slow. And so the general understanding coming from people that are in the school board, like teachers. They don't really know anything about the internet. It's not like now, where now
Yeah.
internet has become like the mainstream. But I remember the time when internet was like an unknown entity, and no one knew anything about it or what Flash was, or that you could play games or you could gamble and all this like craziness.
Yeah. Yeah, I never got to experience the because when I was got on the internet, I was like what, like 7 or something. And by that time, what was big was like flash games a lot. But by that time, it was already like past the creation stage. But it was still, I don't know, like late 2000s was when I was on the internet. I was like 10 or something. So
Oh
a
man.
lot more developed than I'd say the 90s, but
Hmm.
it's definitely different.
Yeah, this is what I like about having a podcast too. It's just I talk to random people all the time. And the majority of content creators or people on YouTube are the younger generation, or I'm kind of like the old guard. Like no one, there's like hardly any of my friends that are in their like mid 30s or trying to be a content creator on YouTube. Like it's a young man's game, right? This whole content creation stuff. And whenever I talk to people on the podcast, oh, what's going on? How old are you? Oh, yeah, I just finished my exams. I'm like, exams? Like you're still in school? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh man, like always. I'm like, I always have this like realization, like the internet world is for like the younger generation, and I'm still hanging around somehow.
Yeah, the rapid technology really went fast, and then you just get
Hmm.
the after effects of wow, people, you know, it's different, I guess.
Oh, for sure. And so speaking of After Effects, um, so I came across you. I don't know if it was if you came across my channel or I came across yours at first. I can't remember, but eventually we were talking about video editing, and this
hmm
is sort of like how I kind of like met you. And I was always interested, like what was the allure for video editing for you? Like how did you start getting into it?
Um, I would say back when I first, in hindsight, realized that I liked kind of the visual media type stuff was I watched these animations done by this Korean animator, and he made these almost like music video type things. And I remember I was really into them, but I didn't know why. Like I knew I wanted to do something like it, but I was like, well, I can't draw. I can't like be an animator. So that's where the first like seed was kind of. And then my favorite music artist does music videos and whatnot, but he like edited them and directed them himself. And then I saw a tutorial on how to do one of them, and then I was like, let me try and like do stuff like that because so and from there I just kept watching like tutorials on how to do primarily music video effects, but from there just kind of learned stuff as I went, and I just thought it was really cool, I guess, very visually pleasing, I guess you could say.
That's awesome. It's Do you feel that like video editing is kind of like your passion now, or is it still just like a side project for you?
Oh, I think you could ask any of my friends, and they would definitely say it's a passion. The amount of times that editing and video come out of my mouth when we're in a group call is crazy. And I'm not kidding. I've dreamt like I have a client right now, and I have to make a like a TikTok style video like per day for them. And sometimes I'll get like a video I don't know what to do with it, and I'll go to sleep and I will dream like about the software and like stuff like I could do. Like I don't remember it in the morning, but it's kind of like how that one experiment went where were given a math problem and they slept on it. And apparently with sleep, sometimes it can like help solve or something like that. But yeah, I would say it definitely has gone to the realm of passion. I'd talk about it all the time, and it would be my dream to do it full time for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. Because one thing that I find with especially younger people, it's like so often people are just lost. They're just lost in life. They don't know what to do. They don't know what their purpose is. They don't know what their passion is. And they kind of are forced into the corporate world with no identity or no idea of what to do. And that was who I was. Like when I went to university, I had no passions aside from like basketball and video games. And it was like in those times I'm 5'10", so I'm never going to be a professional basketball player. And then like video games, like who does that? Like only maybe people in South Korea that are playing StarCraft. Like at those
Mm,
times, Twitch didn't exist, live streaming didn't exist, and all these like competitive tournaments like League of Legends and Dota, and these weren't things, right? And I feel like so many people were where I was, where they had no idea what their passion was. So whenever I talk to someone, especially that is young, that knows, that has that like burning sensation deep in their soul of like what they love, I'm always
mm,
like that is amazing because so few people find that so early. And if you can find a way, I would just try to push you towards that and push you towards your passion like any way possible because it's an amazing thing when you can do something you love for a living rather than doing something you hate, right? Or doing something you're forced to do.
right. Yeah, with being lost, that is a huge thing. A lot of people, it's like because they obviously don't know what they want to do, and they're like, well, go to college. That's what you do if you don't know. But even when you're in college, like, well, you'll figure it out in college, and like some of the people like in college, like counselors would be like, it's okay if you don't know what you want to do or whatever. You'll figure it out once you're there or something. But I feel like a lot of times that just doesn't happen, and like they might find something they're interested in, like a class or something, but not it doesn't go to the level of passion, I don't think. So then that's where you get like degree changes. They'll think something's cool and they'll change their degree and end up not really liking the field. So it's a very difficult thing to find passion, I feel like. And I think I'm just lucky to have found it so early. Um yeah, and then I think with your situation, it's almost like the like born in the wrong generation type thing, because it's like you have the like the like you knew you liked video game stuff, and like with now, if you really liked it, then I mean there's ways of expanding into a job, or working like in the esports scene or whatnot. But I mean back then esports, I don't think that was taken very seriously or anything. So yeah, I think all in all with passion, I would say I'm just really lucky to have found it so early.
Mm. Yeah, I like that point about like being born in a wrong time, because when I was, let's say, what year did I finish high school? So when I was in high school, I was the very last year that had grade 13. So when I graduated high school in grade 13, the grade 12s graduated with me, and they called it a
Hmm.
double cohort. So there's two times the amount of people all graduating, applying to colleges and universities. And I was like, okay, what do I love to do? Like I said, basketball and video games. Okay, well, there's no job for that. But then I was like, okay, so what subjects am I good at? And it was like math, physics, calculus, geometry. And then I was like, okay, so what am I bad at? It's like history, English, art, writing. And so I was like, okay, so what major can I choose that is suited for my strong skills in school? And it was like computer science or engineering or something math related, right? And
Hmm.
so I was like, okay, if I don't go to university, then I'm going to be a loser, because that is what the narrative was for kids in the in the late 90s that were graduating high school. And then eventually it's like, oh, even if you don't like it, it's like you said, it's good to go, and then you can always change your mind later on. But then when I went, I was like, what am I doing here? I'm spending thousands and thousands of dollars to study something I don't care about. Like, I don't care about it at all. And then it's almost as if, like, I'm just going for the sake of going. And I always regretted that. I always regretted just going just because, right? Without having a specific reason. And it's so crazy because I dropped out of university. I lived like a very hard and difficult life because I had no post-secondary education. I was bouncing around between all these shitty jobs. And then I found my passion at like 33 years old, which is so late in life
Hmm.
for people, right? Like 33. So like I went from 18 to 33. So that's 15 years of trying to find out who I was, right? And
Yeah.
I consider myself lucky to figuring out at 33, because some people they might not find out until they're 40. But then how do you expect like 18-year-old kids to know what they want to study for the next 4 years, to work in that job or field for the rest of their life? It's an extremely difficult proposition for young people to decide, that I feel like, I don't know if it's just America or just Canada, but our North American education system, I feel like it's backwards, man. Like we got things like all wrong. It's like we're just forcing people to go into massive amount of student debt to pick a degree or a path that they might not even like. And I
Yeah.
wish there was something that we could do to change that, but I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. Yeah, with the whole education system, I mean, it's a whole can of worms, and with because that was a really recently hard decision that I had to make, is because I had just graduated high school and I'd planned to go to college for like the whole summer, and I was going to go for a film slash video degree because that's what I like to do.
Oh, nice.
And um, about a week, like a week or two before move-in day to like the dorms and whatnot, I had emailed a client about working for them, and they surprisingly, I mean, it was a cold email, and they were like, "Yeah," and they gave me a giant proposition. They accepted my rates, and they gave me a giant like what they want done, and it was a lot of work. It was like there was no way I was able to accept that offer and go to college at the same time. So I had to decide if I wanted to work for them, for the client, and kind of that's the pursue the passion route essentially, which is more dangerous, but it's more what I would want to do rather than go to college. Um, because it was essentially my dream job, because it was for a content creator. They stream on Twitch and whatnot, so I'd be editing like VODs and making like YouTube videos and whatnot. And so what comes with that is like, every all my friends are going to college, and it's like I'm here, and it's a little bit scary because it's like, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if they drop you? And it's like, it is it a hard thing to think about because it could go good. I could get more clients. I have been getting more bigger clients, but I mean, it does feel more unsteady than say going to college. But like you were talking about, uh, it just wouldn't feel right. I'm still figuring it out, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a very difficult decision, right? Because at the end of the day, I am not someone who is against education. And people have this incorrect perception of me that I am anti-college or anti-university. Like I'm not. I am all for education. But I am all for education if you want to be a lawyer, so you need to go to pass the bar, or you want to be a doctor, so you got to go to med school, or you specifically want to be a teacher, so you got to go to teachers college. Like if you know a specific career path that requires that college degree or requires a certain level of education, then for sure go for it. Like I'm all for it. But if you're someone that's like, oh, I should go to college, I'm going to take business administration. It's like what are you doing? Like that's got to be in my opinion, I know this is harsh, but that's one of the stupidest decisions you can make. And it's because I know that because I've made that decision too. When I didn't when I dropped out of university, I tried to go back to college and I took business administration, which is just a complete waste of my time because I was in this program where I was the only guy and it was like 30 girls and they all just want to be secretaries with like desk jobs. And I'm this like aspiring entrepreneur that has all this crazy business ideas, but I think it's a smart thing to go and get my post secondary education. So, oh, I don't know what to do. Let's do business administration. And it's always like, every decision where I didn't have a specific reason for doing something, I always regretted. Every single time I regretted that decision, like no matter what. And all the decisions where I had a clear goal, like I want to pursue photography because I love it. I want to pursue video editing because it's something I enjoy to do. Whenever I had a clear goal and I worked towards that, I always had much better results. And that's taken me kind of to the place where I'm at now. So whenever I do, again, talk to younger people, which I have, I always first stress like if you know exactly what you want to do, go for it. I'm all for it. Like if you want to go into $100,000 student debt to go to med school because you want to be a doctor, like no problem. But it's when you go for sociology or general psychology or you want to be a librarian, it's like I don't know if that's the best use of 100 grand if you would ask me.
Yeah, I would say it wouldn't be as much of a problem if it didn't cost so much. But I mean, it's also you could argue, well, time. I mean, it's 4 years, but yeah, the whole idea is like because it's such it's weird that it's such a normal thing because if college wasn't so like mainstream and like the main path to take, it would be such a gigantic decision to like commit to like 4 years of education with how much it costs. So it is interesting to me that that's the main path to do, and then you get people who don't really know what they want to do, and I definitely see what you mean about like there's a lot of people, yeah, going to psychology, sociology, because they have these like kind of just ideas of what it might be like, and probably don't put much thought into it, and they figure, well, I'll figure it out later, or I'll probably like it. But when there's like 100 grand on the line, it's like you better like it, or you might end up with a job you don't like or something, which, and then you'd have to find passion later in life or something.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the times I like to play devil's advocate with myself and I kind of like to argue my own thoughts and ideas because obviously we're always biased towards how we feel and the way we think. So sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, a lot of people say things like, "Oh, if you at least go to college, then that will give you the opportunity to reach higher jobs that require a degree as minimum for entry." Because like there's some jobs, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, or how good of an interview you present yourself with. If you don't have that piece of paper that says bachelor's degree of whatever, you can't even make it through that point of entry. So like I understand that from that perspective. When people say like, oh, at least you can start at a higher rate because
Mhm.
when I dropped out and I had to get like an office job, it was like $10 an hour, right? Because I have no skills, I have no education, and that's what you get, right? But on the flip side, the way I think about it is like this: best case scenario, right? I pursue my dreams and it works out. Worst case scenario, I fail, but then I end back up at the exact same place I'm at now, where I'm just hating what I'm doing. So I might as well just at least try and go after something that I love to do, rather than be forced to do something that doesn't really make any sense. And it's very difficult because, like I said, like I've learned the hard way, right? I started off making like $10 an hour in a warehouse, lifting boxes and doing all these shitty labor jobs because I didn't have an education. And then my parents are like, they're judging me. They're being like, see, like, look, you have to do this, this stupid job. Like, don't you hate it, right? And I'm like, yes, but also now I have I have more motivation to get out of this shitty job and maybe try this route or maybe try this business. And what I did was I kept trying things. I would try this, try that, try the next thing. I kept trying and trying. And what happened was I just kept failing over and over and over. But what happened is because I tried so many things, eventually I stumbled onto videography and editing. But if I had a degree in computer science and I had a corporate job in the tech world and IT, then there wouldn't be that sense of urgency for me to go out and try things. I probably would have just settled. Be like, okay, I got this comfy programming job. I'm making what, $75,000 a year. There's no reason for me to try photography. There's no reason for me to try video editing. And that's what kind of holds you back. Whereas when you're in the struggle, you're more than willing to get after it, right? Because you have all this energy and this ambition. And now, where I'm at in life, I am so grateful and I am so thankful that I didn't finish university, because I am so happy where I am now. Even though I still do work a shitty job, right, during the day, like deliver boxes as a courier, right? I'm still lifting heavy shit. But I know what I love. And when I get home, I'm on Adobe Premiere, I'm editing, I'm in After Effects, I'm learning new things. And I'm sure you can relate to this, but you have this like wonderful feeling inside where like you're just like at peace and like, I just love this type of work. It's just beautiful, right?
Yeah, because I mean, I still have a part-time job on the weekend. I work at a restaurant and I do hosting and like to-go orders and whatnot. So yeah, the contrast of like having, working 3 days in a row, then coming home and like editing and like being tired, but still having that feeling. It's like, ooh, I get to edit, which like to other people would be work, but it's like I get to edit. but but you were talking about oh, what was it? Hmm. What were you talking about before?
Um, Tuition or picking a program just because,
Hmm.
taking risks,
Yeah, but I mean,
parents.
I figured with because not going to college, the piece of paper thing, it is a scary thing to me as well. Because I could have 4 years of client experience or something like that, but then if if they're like, well, you don't have a degree, then it's like, what do I do? So that is still a thing there, but it's almost like the starving artist versus oh, the thing I was gonna get at was in that situation with the programming job, it's almost like a money replaces almost soul slash passion type thing,
Mm.
whereas if you find the passion first and then need to get the money, I think it creates a more meaning, I would say, because when you get the money first and you had like the programming job and say you don't like it, then you become complacent and then you almost feel empty, passionless, and it's like, well, but it's money though, so it's like the replacement for that empty feeling kind of. So um with choosing to do or finding your passion first, it's like it's obviously more unsteady than the programming job, but it gives you reason to work, I guess. It's almost like finding purpose, and then once they both intersect where you are, you know, sustainable while finding your passion, it's a great thing, and you obviously can't do that, or you'd be less likely to do that if you know had to break out of a comfy job or whatnot. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's tough, right? Because think about it. If you spent 4 years in school, finished computer science, and then you got a programming job or an IT job or whatever, and you're probably making, I don't know, 75, 85, 95,000 a year, you're set. You're comfortable. Your bills are paid. You can get a mortgage. You can get a car. You can put food on the table. You can buy video games and new shoes and go out. Like all your needs as a human being are covered. But what it does is it ends up being a giant trap because now in your mind you're going to be like, oh, if I quit now and try to pursue this sneaker business that I want to pursue, I'm not going to make $85,000 a year like I am now, and I'm not going to be able to maintain my lifestyle. And what that does is it holds people back from taking entrepreneurial risks and taking risks towards their passion. And I notice this because I have a lot of friends. Um, well, I should say, like, I have a group of friends that I've been close with ever since like grade school, like grade one, grade four, like our whole lives. There's like a group of us, and we're super tight. And out of all of them, I am the least successful and the least educated. And they all have great education, great jobs, make a lot of money. But when we hang out, they always talk about like, oh, I gotta do this meeting on Monday, or I have this stupid email that I gotta do on the weekends. Like they're always complaining and hating their work, and it's like, but for me, I have none of that. I have nothing. Like I gotta go deliver some boxes. Sure, no problem. If that means I can create YouTube videos on the weekends and create and edit videos after work, like hell yeah, I'll deliver all those boxes. I don't care.
Hmm.
It's fueling my passion. It fuels something that I love to do. And another thing that kind of where this kind of segues into is this whole idea of money. And I never understood this until recently, until I became a parent. And so 2 years ago, I became a father. And then my mindset as a human being changed. All of a sudden, I had this parent mindset where I have to do whatever I can to keep my daughter safe. Now I'm like, she has to go to school. I got to save up money for her to go to college. She needs to get a safe job. And I was like, wait. Like, where is this coming from? I never had these thoughts. I never believed in any of this before. And then I realized it was my parent brain was turned on because now I have a daughter. And I was like, oh, this is what happens to everybody else. Everyone wants their kids to go to school, to get a safe job, to get benefits, to get a salary, to get a pension, because they know their kids will be stable, their kids will be secure, and they don't want to live in a world where their child might not be able to afford their next meal because they're chasing some crazy video editing dream on Twitch, right? And that's where the thought comes from. It comes from parents fearful of their children not being safe. And I had this like epiphany moment where I had to fight myself because my own beliefs were contradicting my beliefs that I developed as a parent. And this is a very strange thing that was happening in my mind. And this only happened because I like to think about my thoughts and I like to be as open minded and transparent as I can and be honest with myself because these are things that I believe in. But now my instincts are kind of taking me over. And then I was like, oh, I get it. Like money has a huge role in all of this shit. Like huge. And I'm sure if you were to talk to your parents, right, and then you would be like, oh, if I go to college and I finish, I'm guaranteed to get a $50,000 a year job. But then if you tell them you're going to do video editing, they're going to be like, well, do you have a salary? Do you have benefits? Like, how does that work? Do you have a pension? And I think this is where this argument and this mindset kind of stems from.
Yeah, it's like the people further down the path telling you what you need for that path, kind of, or further down the line, I guess. And yeah, all that is a lot of food for thought. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, with my parents, you know, obviously going up to, because I it's really weird because I kind of did a 180 growing up, or like now versus growing up, because growing up I was like, I don't really care for like artsy type jobs, they're starving artist type thing, just get something solid, and I'll be set, but now it's like, I've flipped and I'm doing an artsy job, I guess you could call it. But with my parents, and I mean, I expressed that to my parents, I mean, growing up, obviously. So when I told them, I was like, because they know I was interested in video editing and whatnot. And I was like, I just got an offer or whatnot. And they were very like open to it, which is weird because you wouldn't really expect that, to like, hey, I want to pursue a dream of being a full-time video editor. It seems like it'd be really hard to convince, but I was getting paid for it, and they're like, I mean, you're getting paid, so yeah. And they were like, just okay with me not going to college the next year. So I would say I'm lucky on that front to have supportive parents of it, not, forcing me into the, cycle, quote unquote. So I mean, but now it's on my shoulders. Now I have to perform and pursue it correctly, and almost self-governingly. I'm trying to wake up earlier. I'm trying to meet deadlines, on my own in my room. I don't have a teacher telling me this is due this time. I have to figure out taxes apparently, which I'm still figuring out because I've been told that I make enough like per month off of it where it has to be taxed. So I still have to figure that out. So I mean, it's pretty wild, but I mean, I would my other friends are in college, and I mean, all the time they're complaining about assignments and tests and whatnot. So like the situation that you were talking about with your friends, and I'm like, my homework is like, oh, I have to like do a video for somebody, which is cool, and then I get to like play games, I guess. I mean, I have my part-time job, but I mean, it's fine. I like it, So
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
how that goes,
that's
I
really
guess.
good, man. See, I didn't know that you had a part-time job, and I usually recommend that to people because unfortunately there is this very polarizing idea out there where you need to be all in or not. It's like you got to be all in on school and corporate life, or you got to be all in as an entrepreneur. It can't be both. It has to be like one or the other. But why can't it be both? Like, why can't I pursue this podcast and my YouTube channel and all this stuff that I want to do, but also have a job on the side? And I got a lot of shit from my coworkers at my company that I work at because I used to be full time, right? And I stepped down and I became part time, and everyone was like, "Why are you doing that? That's so stupid. You're giving up your full time job. You're giving up your full time wage. Like you're giving up all this stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, like listen, I may be giving up some money, right? I may be giving up a couple $100 a week, but I am gaining an infinite amount of exponential happiness in my life. Like it's not even comparable. Like if you could tell me if I had to pay $200 a week and I'd be like 50 times happier of a person because I absolutely love my life. I wake up in the morning without an alarm clock because I love what I do. I love my work. I love my passion. Like I love everything. And I'm just so happy and I'm so thankful and so fortunate. But it's going to cost me $200. Take my $200. I don't care. Like, are you out of your mind? Right? Like $200 is the difference between those two things. And of course, yes, it does kind of suck because now I'm making less money, and my parents are like, can you afford your mortgage? Can you do this and can you do that? And it's like, listen, this is another big thing that I've learned through this whole process is like money isn't everything. Like, sure, it is helpful, right? Because you need to have bills, you need money to reinvest into the business. But I heard this idea once where it's like you if you chase money, then you're never going to find it. But if you chase your passion, then money will eventually chase you. And this idea of if you just keep doing what you love and doing what you're passionate about, your expertise at that subject or field is going to be infinitely better than, say, my ability as a courier, right? Because I love video editing, right? So I'm always learning. I'm like, oh, how do I do this effect? Or, oh, how do I do this sound design or this transition? And I'm always getting better and making these small micro improvements week by week by week. And so my skill level just keeps rising, and it gets better and better and better. Whereas my courier job, it's like this, it's a flat, straight line that doesn't progress at all because there's no passion there, right? And I just go through the motions day in and day out. And this is like this, it's almost like this lullaby that people get rocked to sleep where they're just wake up day in, day out, drive through traffic, get to the office, drive home through traffic, watch Netflix, and it's like rinse and repeat day in and day out. And there's no passion there, right? And there's no happiness. And this is why there is like this epidemic of, people being depressed in our world, right? And people claiming, oh, I need more work-life balance, right? Like, okay, you claim you want more work-life balance, but then when it comes to the opportunity to do so, it's like everyone wants to be against it. And
Mhm.
it's like it's very hard, right? Because these thoughts and ideas, they're not in the mainstream, right? Like what me and you are doing, it's 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 not normal, right? Like we want to be video editors, right? And all these weird things where people are
Yeah,
like you enjoy doing that like after work, but what they don't know is like this is what we love to do, right?
yeah. That it's really interesting that you bring that up because that lullaby is something I've thought about really hard, especially when like first starting to like make money off of video editing. It's like that like lullaby is I can't imagine myself doing that. Like, and I also think a lot about becoming complacent with things I don't like. And I like if I did have a full-time job that I really didn't like, I really don't think I don't think I could do that. It's and that gave me it's weird because immediately after I thought of that, they gave me a much bigger appreciation for my parents because I mean they had to do that, and I mean they still do that to an extent, and they had to do it for 5 kids, and they do it for the love of the kids, and but and then that also brings up the part time thing because I'm thinking let's say I only make enough money from video editing to have it be bring in as much like a part-time job. And then I also have my other part-time job. And it's like I would rather do this and that two part-times rather where I love doing one of them rather than do one full-time that provides the same or more that I don't like doing. So I had to ask myself, would I rather, let's say, almost I mean, still kind of a generous assumption. Let's say I got a full-time editing job, but it's like corporate editing, which is my editor's fear is becoming a corporate editor. And I'm like, so let's say I get that somehow. That's full-time, it's safe, whatnot. But or I could pursue what I'm doing right now, which is part-time at the restaurant, which brings in money, and part-time editing for online clients, which is fun content. I mean, it's video games, and a lot of people. It's also weird to think that a lot of people like would really like to be in the position where they could like work for streamers. Um, and I also have to think about that almost to like not waste that opportunity, kind of. Um, and yeah,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's it's tough because if you have the opportunity, you want to pounce. You want to pounce on it, right? And I also had the same appreciation like for my parents. Like my parents didn't have 5 kids; they only had two. So your parents, like I couldn't only imagine the bills you guys had. But for us, like my dad worked 3 jobs, right? And my mom took the train every day to work downtown, and I didn't really see them that much. But it's because they worked really hard because they wanted to give us the opportunities to go to school and to go to college. But what parents don't understand is that the jobs of today are not the jobs of tomorrow. Like when I was 16, YouTube wasn't a thing. It wasn't created. There was no such thing as Twitch streamers. There wasn't any TikTok influencers. There was no OnlyFans. There was none of this stuff. And the way I think about it is like, okay, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be a podcaster, blah, blah, blah. But 20 years from now, when my daughter is 20, there's going to be jobs in the world that don't even exist today that we couldn't even think of, right? And as a parent, you need to be open to that possibility of the future being very different than what your present moment is. And this is hard for parents to admit because this is like an introspective thought. We need to stop and think about the world and think about your life, and you need to really think things through. And a lot of times, parents don't have time for this, right? They're busy. They're worrying about what's for dinner on Friday night. Like that's their priorities, right? And this is where, like, again, I'm very fortunate. I have time where I can think my thoughts through and think things that I believe in. And when I think about my mom and dad, I'm like, man, I am so grateful for the opportunities they gave me. So, of course, I want to do that too for my daughter. But at the same time, I'm going to work hard for her to give her the opportunities to choose the jobs in the future that don't exist today, right? And when they do come up, I'm going to try to be as open-minded as possible and not try to think they're bullshit, right? Because think about it. Like say 10 even just 10 years ago, if you want to tell your parents, "Oh, I want to be a Twitch streamer. I want to play League of Legends." They're going to think you're ape shit crazy, right? They're going to be like, "What are you talking about? Are you Twitch? Like what is that?" Like it used to be Justin TV, like the streaming site that followed this Korean guy around through his life every single day. Like that's what it was. Like that's what the platform was, and then it mutated into something that no one could have foreseen, right? And that is exactly what the future is going to be in say 2041. Like what is gaming going to be? Are we going to be in a world where we're wearing virtual headsets and then athletes are like plugged in into the Ready Player One universe and that's what professional sports are going to be? Like you don't know, right? And
Hmm.
I try to think like what's the world going to be like? Like, what is Elon Musk going to create 20 years from now? Or what is the next Elon Musk after that? And my mind just implodes because I have no idea what it's going to be. And I think that that is the correct answer that parents need to think about when it comes to the education for their kids and not be so narrow minded, right? And be open to all paths and all possibilities for your kids. And I know this is not a popular opinion to have, right? This is very fringe, this is very abstract, but when I think it through, I feel like this is what makes the most sense moving forward.
Yeah, I do agree with you on a lot of these things. They're kind of thoughts that I talk to myself about almost, but to have someone, like say them out loud is very interesting, I guess. Because I do also do the thing where I argue with myself a lot about like decisions and ideas and whatnot. But yeah, I think with the future proof thing, it's kind of it's kind of interesting because I think in a way, like compared to my parents, I would have like one of those future jobs. Like, because I mean, editing existed back then with like movies and stuff, but it's like, hey, I'm editing for Twitch streamers, and it's also weird because if I brought that resume to say like a film or video studio downtown, and I showed them, hey, I work for Twitch streamers, they're gonna be like, okay, that's not like a job, so it's kind of that future job type thing where it's like, you know today, I mean, it's definitely gaining traction. And I did like research on growth of video editing, before I got into it. And video editing as a profession was expected to go up in America by like 18 to 20%, which is a lot.
Mm.
So I figure it's almost like I'm trying to get in before it like skyrockets. Because I mean, from here, I mean, it's only getting there's more content creators, there's more media, and with that comes you need someone to produce it and perfect it for you. So it's almost like my parents, I guess I do have one of those like future jobs kind of. And then to me, it's like maybe, my kids could be editing, AR reality features or something like
Mm.
real life MMO type stuff. Or like they designed the level above your head or something, you know. So I think it's very, very true thing, I guess, because it kind of did come to fruition, if you want to look at it that way, I guess. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Because you have to think at the same time, when you hear those census polls that are on the news, where, I don't know, like a city interviews like 1,000 students, like, what do you want to be? And back in the day, it'd be like, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an astronaut, blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, it's overwhelmingly, I want to be a YouTuber or a social media influencer. Like that is what kids want to be nowadays. It's not like, oh, I want to be the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, or oh, I want to be a professional tennis player. It's like it's none of that. It's they want to be YouTubers, TikTokers, video game streamers. Like that is what the younger generation wants, right? And if you think about it, if that's what the younger generation wants, fast forward 20 years from now, where do you think the job market is going to be? You know, editing is going to be huge, right? Editing is going to be massive. And it's also, you realize how platforms like Instagram were just like pictures, right? And pictures were all the rage, and professional photographers, and everyone loves stills, right? Still images. But now it's all video. Like everyone's
Hmm.
about the video. And you think about like our smartphones. They take amazing video, right? Who is going to edit that? Who's going to edit that stuff? Like a
Yeah.
serious question, right? Professional video editors, it is a job of the future because, and look, this is very subjective, right? This is not fact, like this is not fact. These are just things that we believe in. But I believe wholeheartedly in the YouTube platform because as a YouTuber, you kind of see the things that their trajectory, is that a word? The trajectory of the
Yeah.
company. Um, it's like they're getting towards this weird place where they want to be YouTube TV. And I'm like what if they take over cable television? And you know how YouTube has like those movies you can pay for and watch? Like
Mhm.
what if all of a sudden, um, if you want to watch a television show, but it's only streaming on YouTube, and then all of a sudden television becomes obsolete, right? And everything just goes to YouTube and everything goes to video. What are you gonna need? Video editors, right? So it's like the more I think about it, and the more possible outcomes that I may or may not occur. I'm like, I think video editing is a pretty good thing, to bank on because it's related to this whole realm of what do kids today want to do with the rest of their life. And, I don't know if it's a good thing or I don't know if it's a bad thing, but they want to be in social media, right?
Yeah, the thing that when I first started thinking about this, the thing that came to my mind, I don't remember where I heard this. Like, I don't know if it's a quote. I don't know, remember where I heard it, but I equate it to the gold rush of California. And,
Hmm.
the gold rush, everyone moved to California because they wanted the gold. And that's what I see today is everyone's going to Twitch, YouTube. They want to be the streamer, they want to be the content creator. And the people who were smartest about that situation weren't the people going to California to get the gold. It was the people who sold them the pickaxe. And I think that's where I come in because these aspiring people, I'm like, let me offer my services to you. That way, I would get it's a job for me, and then they get to mine for gold, and then, but with this situation, it would be we would both benefit if they found gold because then I would be an editor for like a big stream or something. So I would say like in that idea, that's why I think being an editor right now is like a smart idea, and I mean it has worked um to a well extent for me at least because I've only been getting clients for about 4 to 5 months. And I mean, before that, it was only a dream to get one for free. Just the idea of work, like having my stuff for someone else was insane to me. I wasn't even thinking about money at the time. And I mean, you saw me back then. I was doing like music videos and whatnot because I like to do it. And the idea of working for someone and getting paid was just a dream at that point. And within the span of 5 months, I'm now making, I'd say I think this month it's going to be around $1,000 off of editing.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's like, it's just because the need for the streamers and whatnot is they don't they don't post a video editing thing on Indeed or something like that, so
Indeed.
yeah, and sometimes they don't know that they really need one, and that's what I thought of, because I would go to these Twitch channels and I would check their YouTube page to see what they were uploading, and I would check if they had an editor. I would check if they uploaded unedited clips, and I would be like, I could tell if they didn't have an editor or not. So they had a business email. So I emailed their business email, and they got back to me. I mean, Twitch verified streamer got back to me about editing for them, and it was insane. And when they said yes, I was shaking. Fun fact: I went up to my parents, and my hand was shaking when I read. I was reading on my phone. They gave me this big message about the plans of making videos and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's interesting to approaching the job market for it, because some don't know they need it, and if they do need it, they're not going to post it on like Indeed or traditional job places. So it does work, obviously, because I edit for 3 Twitch verified streamers and 1 small streaming group, and this is within the span of about 5 months, and now make enough, a little bit, or about as much or a little bit more than a part-time job. So I think I think that does show that it's like a on the rise type of thing, and has a lot of almost like hidden openings, I guess you could call them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what's interesting about that? So I have huge plans to hire a videographer and an editor for my YouTube channel. And this is like, look, I love videography and I love editing. These are things that I love to do. However, the time constraints of editing is really hard. It's and you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah,
so time consuming to go through frame by frame and do these transitions and fix the audio and the color grading. Like there's so much. It's overwhelming. And even though,
especially. Mm,
yeah, and these are things I love to do, right? But I know down the road, like I am gonna need help, like because it's just too much work. And this is where you come in, because there's going to be people like me that are on the come up, right? That
mm,
even though they absolutely love video editing, they're going to need help. But then from your point of view, just think about all the content creators that hate editing. Like I'm sure there's
yes.
tons of people that just hate going into Adobe, or they hate going into what's the one for Mac? Final Cut.
Yeah, Final Cut Pro.
Final Cut. Yeah, they probably just hate it, right? They don't
Hmm.
enjoy that type of stuff. So that's like so many more possible clients for you. And I like this one thing that you said where you cold emailed.
Hmm.
And I always encourage people, like, don't be scared. Just don't be scared to send as many of those cold emails out as you can. Like for this podcast, I struggle to find interesting people to talk to. I struggle, and I send so many cold emails out. And so often I don't get a response, or I get a yes and they don't show up, or they stand me up, or they like it's just so frustrating. But if you just keep firing those emails, there's so many potential clients out there that they don't know that they need your services until you connect to them, right? So just keep going, dude.
Yeah, I mean, because I have this. I mean, relates to you. I have a lot of editor friends, and how I talk to editors is I would search by the editing tag on Twitch and just see who's streaming and just talk to them. And through that, I talked to a lot of people, learned as much stuff as I could, see what other people do, see what it's like doing their job. I mean, I've met this one dude used to edit for the rapper Logic.
Oh,
You just
wow.
yeah, you just meet all these people, and one of them, they I asked them how they got their client because they were kind of big, and I was like, "How'd you get them?" And they're like, I just like asked them, and they said send a sample, and I sent them, and then they said yes, and I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, well, I had just got done editing a video. It was like 1 in the morning, and I went on Twitch, and I was like, why don't I just ask? So in that night, I sent about 5 cold emails, and the one that gave me enough work to get out of college responded the next day, next night, and it was insane to me. And I mean, I can't count how many cold emails I've sent, but I mean, look where it's got me. It's like, what do you lose out of doing that? And that's what I tell my other friends, because I have a close friend, and she was thinking about like kind of doing what I do, and I was like, well, what do you lose out of just asking that? Just sending an email to their business email. I mean, it's not like you're like DMing them on Twitter or something. It's a business email. It's a business proposal, and it's like they either just don't respond, in which case you don't lose anything. We're like, it's so I definitely do encourage cold email, and I still do, because I mean, you just never know. Never would I have thought really any of them would have said yes. It's just yeah, it's weird.
I know what you mean. It's hard because there's this weird fear that you have as a human being of fear of rejection. Because no one likes being told no, right? Like
Mhm.
no one likes to ask for something and then get rejected straight to their face. Like no one enjoys that, right? So of course
Mhm.
there's this hesitation to want a cold email. And I was guilty of this too. Like I was so scared to want to collaborate with people. I wanted to start a podcast for like so long. I found it so interesting, but I was like, oh man, what if I ask someone and they say no, or what if I ask someone and they laugh at me? Then I'm gonna feel like shit. And then it's like you have this self doubt, right?
Mhm.
And I know logically it makes sense. Send the cold email because what's the worst thing that can happen? Nothing. They say no or don't respond. So what? You just move on. But it's that rejection deep
Mhm.
down in your soul that's so painful. You just need to like don't think about it. And so what I've been doing is I'm just like F it, just sending out invitations. Like you want to talk? You like quilts or you like gardening sunflowers? Sure, I'm interested. Let's talk in the podcast. I don't care. Like I'm a super curious person, so I want to talk to anyone about anything. I don't really care as long as they are interested in that subject because I enjoy talking to people that are obsessed with things, like even if you're a sailor that likes to fix up old boats from 1950. I know nothing about that. I could care less about boats, but I appreciate that like passion, that passion that people have.
Mhm.
And I'm always like, ooh, like, huh, like where did that come from? Like you love this like specific activity so much you're willing to spend all your time and money on fixing up an old boat. Like it sounds weird, right? But like these are the type of things that people I like to talk to because then I learn a lot. And at the same time, I learn all these weird things through my life through experience. And I'm always more than willing to be honest and share like my shortcomings as a human being. And like I struggled for so long, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make this podcast. And if I ever talk to anyone that is in a stage of their life that was similar to me when I was 16 or 18 or 20 or even 25, like if there's any advice I could give them that could help guide them to live a more successful life, like that is so meaningful and important to me. And and that's why like I like to just talk and just have these conversations about whatever. It could be anything. And I could be completely wrong about all this stuff and all my opinions that I have on school. Like people could be like, "Oh, you're so dumb. You don't value a post-secondary education." Like that's fine. I'm okay with that because I'm kind of over that fear of rejection. I'm over that fear of cold emailing and getting a no, right? And I think that it's a very good skill to develop, especially for someone like yourself who has this clear passion for video editing, and to just go after it, man. You know, I don't know, I can't say this enough. Like I want to encourage you to like go after it like to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I know what you mean about you know, about the sailor and whatnot, because I am also interested in like it's really not about what they do, or like it's the idea that it drives someone to be so fixated, and it's just like the human aspect, and learning other. That's also something I've valued a lot lately, is perspective, and just seeing how people view the world. And I mean, seeing how people, view boats or something is just, I just love the feeling of seeing something from someone else's like wildly different perspective. It's like, how do you get to think to that point? Like, tell me, the steps and like what led to that type of thing. So I definitely understand what you mean. And yeah, it's like, because I also, that's why I wanted to, I mean, that's why I love talking to editors. I've talked to countless, and just like love to just talk about stuff, I guess. So I also had an idea for like doing a podcast where it's like editor based, and like, each week, I have all these editors that I know, and just like talk to them, because like, I mean, who knows what kind of stories you have, working for, X content creator. And it's like, hey, let's talk to the person who makes their content and see what they have to say. Because I've talked to iDubbbz editor on Twitter before, and it's like, you get someone like him, and like, everyone would love to hear what it's, behind the scenes of like what it would be like editing for like a big YouTuber or something. And I think people like us who like editing would appreciate like just people talking about not just like software stuff, but like lifestyle, what the lifestyle becomes when you edit, and stuff like that, how you meet uh clients and whatnot. But I mean, with something like that, I mean, to be honest, I haven't taken any steps towards it. I just think it's a cool idea. But yeah, that's part of the like pursuing passions, I guess, because I do think it's a really good idea, but I just haven't like done anything, I guess.
Yeah, and even an idea like that, like to be perfectly honest, when you start out, it's gonna be shit, right? Like
Hmm.
anything in the world. Like when you
Yeah.
first start something, it's gonna be garbage. Like
Hmm.
even look at this podcast that I'm doing. This is episode 25, and I still have no idea what's going on, right? I don't even know like where if my train of thought is correct. Like I'm getting drunk like half of the time, right? Like you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to figure it out as I go along. And when I look back at the my very first episode, and I did this on purpose. I titled it "Just Start," and what I did is for months, I contemplated back and forth between wanting to start a podcast, or should I do a video podcast, or just only audio? Should I put it on Spotify? Should I have a guest? And I was like, enough, just start, right? And I got really pissed off. And what I did is I just grabbed my camera, right? I put it on my wife's makeup table in our bedroom, and there's like makeup everywhere. There's like all this shit, and I just hit record and I turned it on, right? And I'm sitting on this makeup stool beside our bed, and I'm like, "This is episode one," and it doesn't matter how what you say because it's gonna be garbage, but just start. Just get episode one done, and who cares if it's terrible? You have to get the ball rolling, because if you never create that episode one, that snowball remains stationary and it never moves. But if you can push it an inch to episode two and it grows, and you can push it, and it just keeps growing, and you build on that momentum of success. And eventually, that tiny snowball becomes a massive boulder. But when it becomes a boulder, all you need is a tiny little flick, and it'll continue moving. Whereas in the beginning, it's so hard to just start. But now I'm like, oh, episode 25, let's do it. No problem. Episode 26, turn on the camera, send the Riverside link, bam, record, just go, right? And then just as soon as you get that momentum going, then you'll start learning, oh, okay, so I need to do this angle for the video, or I need to edit the audio a little bit like this, it's peaking too much, or oh, I need to upload it to Spotify and iTunes, and there's all these, and then you learn as you go. And I feel like that's the best way to do it. So if you want to do your podcast, like just start. Who cares if episode one is shit? Like it doesn't really matter. And I found this very interesting stat that I posted on my Instagram where I think it's 90% of podcast creators quit before episode three. And of that remaining 10%, 90% quit before episode 20. So if you want to be in the top 1 percentile of the entire world of podcast creators, you need to get past episode 20. And I was like, holy shit, I'm on episode 25. And I'm like, wow, like this is like a top 1 percentile thing that I'm doing. But it would never get to where it got to if I didn't just create that first stupid video at the makeup stand titled Just Start. So like whatever idea that you have for your podcast, like just do it. Just don't think about it, don't doubt yourself, and just get it out there. And then you can figure out, okay, I need to do this for episode two. Oh, okay, maybe I'll get a guest. Or if maybe you don't have anyone to talk to, or maybe you ask me, oh hey Derek, do you know someone that's a video editor? Oh yeah, I know a bunch of guys. Maybe this guy would like to be on your podcast. And bam, right? You get the ball rolling, and then you never know what it could become.
Yeah, I love the snowball idea, because it's like, if you're at the top of the hill and you have a little snowball right there, you can theorize for the rest of your life what it would be like if it rolled down the hill, but it's not going to move unless you do something to it. You can think of the best way to move it. You can think of all these scenarios, but they're all meaningless unless reality takes place and you push it in whatever way you end up pushing it, and then you figure it out later, because it has to become reality eventually, because it's not going to come to fruition because you thought about it hard enough. But yeah, I definitely know what you mean. But yeah, I mean, it's probably, maybe, yeah, probably should, but yeah, but
It's
I mean,
hard,
that
man.
does a,
It's hard
yeah, does a
because it's
that
the hardest part, right?
mhm, applies to a lot of things too. I mean, that's why. I mean, that's also with editing or whatever. I mean, it all comes back to editing. I think that does come to show the passion part of it. Everything I think about just comes back to editing. But that's why, because I have a friend who he like kind of wants. He also likes editing, and he like kind of wants to do with what I do with like clients and whatnot. But he did the path where he did go to college, and he is doing film right now. So I'm very lucky to have like someone stand in as my place to see like kind of what would have happened. And he doesn't really like it. He like looks at the videos they create, and he's not a fan of it, and he would rather do what I'm doing. And it's like, I guess, how'd I get here? But I guess I'm grateful. I don't know. I get in these trains of thoughts, and it's like, because as you're talking, I'm thinking of all these things I want to say, and then it's like, and I'm talking, I'm like, how did I get here? But I was talking about getting the ball rolling, I guess. Oh yeah.
The snowball.
That's why, because of where I am right now, anytime someone's like, I was thinking about doing this or whatever, I'm like, you gotta just like do it. Or because I promise you, like 95% chance, if you just don't do it, it's not gonna happen. It's like, because then that leads to the complacent life, essentially, where you're stuck and you no longer have the opportunity, and you wish you could be in that position again where you had the option to try and push that snowball. Um, but yeah, there's that little rant.
Yeah, man. No, it's so true because like it's what's so difficult about being a human being, right? Because as soon as you get in that momentum of routine and then you do the same thing day in and day out, The following day, it's just so much easier. It's like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. You've done it your entire life. And it's like it becomes autopilot. It becomes something that's part of your brain that you don't even think about. It's like, oh, it's time to go to bed. Yep, brush my teeth. Or you're about to leave the house. Oh, yeah, tie my shoes. And you don't even have to be like, okay, I need to sit down. I need to pick up my shoes. I need to put them on. I need to tie. Like, you don't have that thought process. But when you create a podcast, in your mind, you're like, okay, how am I going to record it? Am I going to do video? Where am I going to host it? What am I going to talk about? What am I going to title it? But what you realize is all those things are insignificant if you don't start the actual thing, right? And create
Mhm.
and get the ball rolling, like the snowball analogy. And this is also very applicable to life because this is another thing that I kind of tell people that are into that want to lose weight. Because when I started my YouTube channel, I wanted to be a fitness YouTuber. Like I was like big into fitness. I was going to the gym all the time. I was like working on my diet. I was like weighing all my food, calculating all my vitamins, minerals, macronutrients, like the whole obsession, right? And then whenever people would talk to me about like advice, for losing weight, and I'm like, you know what it is? It's just a small habit of doing it every day. What you need to do is you need to plant that seed of fitness and just plant it buried in the ground, get it started, and then every single day just water that seed a little bit. Just water it. Just show up to the gym. Go to the gym, do 5 minutes. Next day go to the gym 5 minutes. Just go. Just keep going, showing up and showing up and showing up. And eventually it becomes 10 minutes at the gym. And then you're there for 20, and then you're there for half an hour. Then all of a sudden you're there Monday to Friday, and you've built this habit up where it's something that becomes part of your identity, and you just
Mhm.
do it. And that is like, it's so huge, and it's like such a fundamental thing that you don't learn about human psychology in school, and you have to learn this the hard way, where just showing up is half the battle. And I know tons of people that just they show up to the gym, they have no idea what they're doing. They're lifting incorrectly, they're like going too slow on the treadmill, they're using all the stupid machines, but they get results because they keep showing up day in and day out. Whereas that other person who has that, like, what do you call it, analysis paralysis, where they're like stuck in their mind and they're overthinking,
Mhm.
they're just spinning their wheels. Their car is just stuck in the mud, and the wheels are just spinning and spinning and spinning, and they're just getting nowhere. And it's finding the power to push yourself to get over that initial hump, which is the most difficult thing to do as human beings, is to start that new task that makes you uncomfortable. But if you can just force yourself to do it, force yourself to hit the record button, force yourself to ask your friend, oh, let's film this first pilot episode for our video editing podcast. We'll figure out the name later. We'll just call it Joe's Pod or Joe's Editing Pod. Like who gives a shit? We'll figure out the title later. We'll figure out the platform later, and just get it going. And again, fertilize that seed. Put the fertilizer, put the dirt, put the water, give it some sunshine, and then all of a sudden, Joe's editing podcast can become this big thing that you never knew about, right? And maybe down the lines, you talk to the editor of Jake Paul, and he shares all these crazy stories that go viral. Like you never know, and all these things aren't possible until you plant that initial seed, right? And that's the biggest thing. So like just find a way and just start it. Start Joe's Pod. That can be your title.
And this will be the creation story.
It's like a
But
fertilization story.
yeah, it's also very coincidental that you bring up working out because that is something that I've been meaning. That's something I want to do because I don't right now, and it would obviously be a really good idea to do it when I'm sitting at my desk all day editing as a job. I mean, I guess I go to work, but I mean that's not working out. So that's very coincidental that the just start with working out that definitely does apply to me. So it's a good thing that you brought that up. And but yeah, that is true with just starting. I mean, it's like it's such a like a of course answer, but when you put the thought into it, it's like yeah, well, what other option is there? Think about it. It's like, yeah, you have to do it. It's like with the car in the mud. It's like you can sit in your car and think about, all right, how many, let me make a list of all the different ways I could get my car out the mud. Or if you go out and push it or use some wood or call a friend, I mean, they might not be the most efficient or whatever, but you're getting some form of result somehow. It's inevitable. And you're, because you're getting zero done if you're sitting in the car thinking about the best way to get it out of the mud. So, I mean, yeah, that does apply to a lot of things. That is for sure.
Yeah, man, I highly recommend the working out thing. It may seem very counterintuitive that you're going to the gym and you're busting your ass and you're gonna be sweating, you're gonna be exhausted, but it gives you more energy, not the other way around. Energy isn't this thing where you have a finite amount that gets depleted and then you don't have any more. Like it's not how it works. And the way I think about it is before I worked out, I was a person that had this battery. This, we'll call it like whatever, this battery of energy level. And the maximum capacity of that battery was 80. And I would go through my day, do all these things, go to school, play sports, whatever, right? And all of a sudden, the battery is drained. I go to sleep. I wake up the next day and I'm back at 80. But when I started working out, when I started eating better and I started exercising and really challenging myself physically, all of a sudden that battery became 100. And even though when I would go to the gym and it may say all of a sudden it would exert 15 units of energy, but after I still have 85. So I still have more units of energy than someone who doesn't work out. And I feel like it increases your capacity as a human being. And it almost is this weird thing where your body needs physical challenges because if you think about the way human beings evolved, right? We weren't meant to get food from a refrigerator, right? We like these things are not real. They're not natural. Like these never existed for human beings, like for our ancestors and our DNA and our genetics and all these things. And it's like the human mind and body needs physical adversity. And if you can find a way to challenge yourself, and it doesn't have to be every day, it could just be 3 days a week, like three solid workouts, and you're gonna drain yourself, but you kind of like you increase the capacity of your human energy. And it's like this weird counterintuitive thought that people might will probably say it's bullshit, but when I started working out, that's what I really noticed. Like, man, like I feel great. Like I just busted my ass for 45 minutes. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. You know, I got to go home, take a shower. But then after, like, you feel ready to tackle whatever. Because if you think about a human being's life nowadays, like what's the most adversity we face? Some like asshole cutting you off on the highway, like traffic, like a social justice warrior yelling at you for something. Like you know what I mean? Like that's the adversity that we have. And now I laugh at that. Like I don't care. Like what, you cut me off? Go ahead, man. Like in the morning, I just crush myself bench pressing 190 pounds, and like that's real adversity. You know, that's real. Like I was deadlifting that barbell. I was like squatting those whatever dumbbells or whatever it is, right? Like that is the real adversity for human beings. And once you get over that, everything else it makes your life so much easier if you can develop a routine of exercise. And again, it doesn't have to be 5 days. It could just be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? And if you want to do it, write that shit down every day. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to wake up at whatever time. I'm going to go to the gym. It could be 20 minutes, whatever time it is. But for that 20 minutes, I'm going to dedicate myself and I'm going to go after this workout. And I'm going to go after it with passion. And I'm going to try my hardest for that 20 minutes. And then Tuesday, you're going to rest, right? Wednesday, same thing. And then again, take your weekends off. You don't have to work out on Saturday and Sunday. Just take it off. Just do a simple Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and just build up that routine. But make sure when you get into the gym, you're there with a purpose. You're not there just walking around looking at your phone, judging people, like wasting time. Like, no. Like, if you're in the gym, you're in the gym. Like, be present and then just go after it. And then your physical body will feel so much better, especially as a man. Like, again, I can't speak for the female body, but as men, as people that have natural testosterone, like we need physical challenges, and it's part of being a young man, especially in the world, right? And I feel like the benefits, like I can't stress enough like how good it is to incorporate some type of daily routine in your lifestyle.
Yeah, that would make sense for how working out kind of helps because I've heard all these stories about like lifting, and they're like, lifting changed my life, and like obviously when they went to first go lift, they didn't really want to do it because it's hard, it's whatever. And then these you get these built guys who they look forward to going to the gym. They would love going there, and that's the highlight of the day. I mean, I have a friend, and they work out together. I mean, they like going to the gym. It's like almost like a social thing. You get a good pump in, and you talk and whatever. But yeah, and then it's also interesting with the evolution, because I have heard that a lot where modern lifestyle is unnatural, which is true, and a lot of people acknowledge that. But it's very interesting that nobody really does anything about it, or if they
Exactly.
do, it's like a shortcut. And I mean, that's where you get the TV commercials about like weight loss and whatnot. um but yeah, I guess that definitely does give me more reason to work out. Because my older brothers, I mean, they would just work out in their room and just play music, and just we didn't have any exercise equipment. We had 15 20 pound dumbbells, and that was it. That was the only exercise equipment we had, and they got fit just from that, doing it every day, every other day, something like that. So that also does inspire me, because I don't want to be the only brother who's like, not fit. And it's also different because like I'm skinny, so it's like, and I'm not. It's not like I'm trying to like lose weight, so it's weird. I just want to gain, and then that also comes to this thing that I heard where it's like, it's much more effective to, instead of like chase an ideal, it's harder to chase an ideal than it is to run away from the worst consequence of something. So if I
Mm.
thought, say I don't work out, and I don't know, let's say I get like diabetes or something, I don't know, or I gain a ton of weight. I am much more scared of that, and that gives me more reason to work out than dreaming about, oh, I would look so strong, because it's more just imaginative. And if you imagine what you would do, what would happen if you didn't do the thing, it motivates you much more. It's because easier to run away than to run to. So yeah, I think that is what I would say for that, in terms of like helpfulness, I guess, or a way of thinking about it. I mean, I should probably on a lot of these things, I would say I should probably take my own advice, but um, I do a lot of thinking, I guess, not acting, I
Hmm.
guess. See, I gotta work on that too, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's hard because everybody knows fitness is important, but nobody does it, right?
Hmm.
And when I think about it, I love fitness, and I'm sure I think it was you're talking about your two friends, but when you put in a hard workout and you get through it, and you say, okay, I'm gonna do 4 sets of 8 reps of this weight on the bench press, and it's gonna be difficult and it's gonna be challenging. But when you get it done and you accomplish that task and you hit that goal, and when you walk out of the gym, you feel amazing. You feel accomplished. You feel proud. You feel strong. You feel so good about yourself that if that feeling existed in a pill form, people would be addicted to it. Like if you could buy that feeling, like if you knew what that feeling was that people get when they get through a hard workout, it feels amazing. It feels so good. And people that run also know this feeling because there's this idea of a runner's high. You ever heard about that? People
Hmm.
that run really hard, they get that runner's high feeling, and they get addicted to it, and they want to run more because they're chasing the high, they're chasing the feeling, and then that's what people want. People want that magic pill. They want that easy way out, and this is why you hear things like on infomercials of, oh, try this Dr. Oz diet pill. It will take 15 pounds off your waistline. Like craziness. Like obviously things that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but everyone wants that shortcut to success, that little pill. But when I tell people, for working out, you kind of want to have a reason why. And sure, do you want to try to pick up girls or do you want to build a bigger body? Like, okay, that's a cool reason. But a lot of the time, all you're really doing is attracting more guys. Guys are like, oh man, you do how much? You squat how much? Oh, bro, nice biceps, bro. Like you actually attract the wrong gender of people. Like in reality, that's what happens, right? But for me, the goal with fitness was when I'm 90 and I'm decrepit and old, I want to be able to squat down, right? Pick up my grandchild, hug them, and stand up. Or if I fall in the kitchen, right? I want to be able to do a push up and push myself up off the ground. That is my reasoning for working out. That is my objective. That is my goal. It's not for some vanity metric or a six pack abs or try to get shredded or show off at the beach. Like none of that. That's not my reason. My reason is health. It's very specific, right? Like, and again, like you said, it's easier to run away from the thing that you're scared of. It's because I'm scared of being a frail, old, useless man when I'm 85 or 90 or whatever. And I would be so sad if I was obese in a wheelchair and I couldn't pick up or hug my grandchildren, right? That that is what would make me feel horrible. So that is why I work out. So that is why I pursue fitness. That is why I pursue, health in general. And I'm not perfect, like I think this past 2 weeks I had one workout. I was so busy with work and editing and videos and podcasts. I was like so busy with everything and I felt so shitty because I couldn't get my workouts in. And on top of that, I have like a gym, like a tiny gym in my garage in my place. So it's not like I have to drive anywhere. I just got to walk downstairs and I got a bunch of dumbbells and a bench press like sitting in my garage. So there's no excuse for me. But this shows you how difficult it is, even for someone like me who is obsessed with fitness. There are days where my mind just fights me and I struggle. I was like, oh man, I don't want to go to the gym today. I could just stay home and watch Netflix, or oh, I worked out on Monday. I can skip a day or two. But as soon as you give in to that mindset of just blowing off the workout, it's so hard to try to keep the ball rolling, right? To keep going.
Yeah, and then what would happen with that is if you got too comfortable with blowing it off is a year or something down the line, you start to wonder what could have been and you regret it that much more. So I think oh, and then the other thing I was gonna say is I wish I had that deep of a reason for working out. I mean, as as a 18-year-old male, I would say it's pretty common that like to attract the opposite sex. I would say, as a I don't, but yeah, that is a that is a good reason, I suppose. More wise, probably future proofing would be smart. But you know, to be young, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, nevertheless, I should, because I mean, it would have. I mean, stuff has benefits that you don't think about that you would still benefit from. If you worked out and whatnot. I mean, obviously health and stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, I should get one of my other friends to start working out with me.
Yeah, if you can find a way, but like at the same time, I usually recommend people like find something that you enjoy. Like for me, I really enjoy lifting weights, right? I enjoy like, okay, last week I lifted 100 pounds for 8 reps. Today, I'm gonna try 100 pounds for 9, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I want to get one, I'm gonna one up on myself, right? Like that challenge of always doing a little bit more is what really fuels me is that progression, right, as a human being. But if you go to the gym and you just hate the weights, like you get sore, you absolutely hate it, you don't enjoy it, and it just like kills you on the inside to do it, then don't do it, right? Like find maybe playing soccer is something you could do, or maybe rock climbing, or just going for a jog through the park. Like, find the thing that you enjoy the most or hate the least. And that's what you should do for anyone that wants to start exercise, is find that thing that isn't impossible to get started with. Because for me, like, I don't like cardio. Like, if I had to go run around the block, or if I had to go run on the treadmill, I'd go crazy. I hate that. There's no challenge for me. There's nothing to look forward to. Okay, I ran a 7 minute mile instead of a 7 minute and 10 second mile. Okay, like, for me, that means nothing, right? I can't quantify that in my brain. Okay, it's like a time limit. But when I see 100 pounds, and I see 105 pounds, or I see 8 reps and I see 9 reps, like, that's tangible to me. Like, those are real goals that spark my interest, that I can go after and brings me joy. So that's why, like, find the thing that you really like to do, and then try to build a habit around that. Right? It could just be like, start off going for a walk down your street. Maybe you would like jogging, and you put on your headphones, listen to an audiobook or some music. Maybe that's for you. Or maybe you like going to, I don't know, like, the gym and playing basketball, pick up basketball with a bunch of random people. Like, whatever it is, it can be anything, but just find the thing, right, that sucks the least, that you could keep showing up for if you want to start working out.
Yeah, and I definitely know you. I'm on board with the not liking cardio. That is definitely
It's
uh
horrible, right?
yeah, it's like a have to do it kind of thing. I get what you mean about like it's almost like very like a primitive thought with like lifting, because it's like you can point to and say I can lift that big thing, and it's something you can show other people, where it's like the only time you could say you could run a certain mile or go amount of time is to like other runners who would understand. So I do think it's like almost like a deep seated, you know, I can lift that big rock type instinct almost. And it's almost like it becomes like a high score thing, where it's like you can write down and shoot for that bigger and heavier weight, or just do more reps of that weight. So that definitely makes sense. And yeah, I think I didn't really think about finding almost like a active hobby. I guess that does make sense. Because when you think of working out, it's like, oh, just like lift or just go to the gym. But I mean, yeah, like rock climbing and stuff. I mean, I've heard from rock climbing, it's like people say your forearms are on fire the whole time. So it's like that is workout. And I think I definitely should look for a active hobby that I don't know, maybe I like as much as video editing. I don't know. And I mean, that would be physically beneficial if I found something like that much.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, especially for us, dude, because you got to think about it. Like, what are we doing? We are, even right now, we're sitting in a chair in front of a computer screen for hours on end. Like,
Mhm.
this is not, again, like, going back to, like, the evolution of human beings. Like, human beings are bipedal. We are meant to stand up on 2 feet. We're not meant to sit in this L shape on a stupid chair, hunched over, right? Like, typing away and staring at a screen that doesn't change its depth, right? So not
Mhm.
only is this bad for our health, our body, our posture, our spine, but also our eyes, right? So you need to find balance in your life, especially if you are serious about, like, pursuing entrepreneurship, and going after this video editing thing. It's that diversification is huge. Diversification is huge. Like, follow your passion, yes, but also, maybe work a little part-time job here for some money, or maybe go to the gym here so you have some exercise, or try not to eat McDonald's or whatever whatever place it is every week, or whatever terrible food habit that you have. Like, for me, it was eating candy all the time and sugar, right? Like, I have no problem putting down, like, burgers or French fry. Like, I have no problem getting rid of that. But for me, it's like putting away the bag of Skittles, or licorice or gummy, that type of stuff. For me, that
Mhm.
was my kryptonite. That was like, man, this is horrible garbage nonsense food that I'm eating, and I can't get rid of it. Like you got to figure out what are the terrible things that you need to get rid of in order to achieve this balance in your life. And I feel like that's very important, especially for entrepreneurs, because again, you're going to be spending how many hours in front of your computer editing on Adobe Premiere, right? And
Hmm.
so you want to have at least, give yourself 3 days. Give yourself that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday, maybe I'll lift weights. Wednesday, maybe I'll go for a jog. Friday, maybe I'll try rock climbing or soccer, or whatever, name the sport. But like, do something physical that is on the opposite spectrum of what we do as a profession, because this is very damaging to your body. And again, like you could be the best video editor in the world, but if your eyes don't work and your back is broken, then you're useless, right?
Hmm.
So what's the point? So what's the point of that? You want to have balance and you want to have diversification. And this is, again, these are all huge life lessons that I learned growing up, because even for me, I've started businesses before that failed. That I went all in, 100% all in, no side job, no hobbies, no exercise, nothing. Just 80 hours into one thing, just tunnel vision. And then when it didn't work out, when it failed, I had nothing left over. There was nothing. There wasn't any side income that I could rely on. There wasn't any other positive habits that were ingrained in my life. There was none of that. And I really learned this importance for diversification and balance. And again, you're going to learn this with money as well. And this also kind of goes back to our conversation with parents where they want you to be financially stable. But money isn't everything, man. You know what money is? Money is like a fresh pair of Nikes you buy one week where you're afraid to get dust on, and then 1 month later you're just throwing them across the room. That's what money is. You buy these things, these objects, these materialistic goods. Like I have, like, even my place, I have a house, a car, a phone, a computer. So what? So what? It loses that shine like over time, and eventually it just becomes another thing that you don't really care about, right? And what you really care about is your time and your life and what you do and the things that you love to do. So again, it's like find balance with your passion and your work, find balance with your health and your life, and find balance with your money and your finances, and find a way to diversify your time amongst all those things to live an overall happy, balanced lifestyle. And I think that is the best way to approach, the type of things that me and you are aspiring to achieve. That maybe some people could use too, right? But then at the end of the day, if you just love working the 9 to 5 and just watching Netflix all night, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's like your dream life, then perfect. But if you want better for yourself, I highly recommend like pursuing some type of, I guess you call it homeostasis or balance or whatever in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, that balance is definitely, I would say, probably a lifelong kind of juggling routine, I guess. And I'd say at this age, and especially this situation, is the time to start the routine, and because I would say, comparing my lifestyle currently to our talk today, there are definitely some things I could improve. I mean, with everybody, and yeah, but finding the balance is huge, because it's like it's like an easy thing to think about and say, but the what comes out of it, you can't really understand unless you are like on at the end of the at the end of it, I guess. Um, but the thing I've thought about through a lot of this talk is Maslow's pyramid. With
Mm,
money only
of
gets you
needs.
up until, yeah, money will only get you up until a certain point, and the things that we're talking about is at the top with self-actualization. That's always a word I have to pronounce out so I don't say it wrong. But yeah, because then, if like with the programmer job, you're gonna be stuck at, I forgot what's before the top, but you're gonna be stuck somewhere. You're gonna have your physical and all those other needs met, except from your mental and internal and fulfilling kind of, which I think is like kind of the theme I think of our talk is self-fulfillment and weighing fulfilling yourself personally and balancing that with the needs of the physical world, I guess. Um, but yeah, I guess you could say that's kind of what I mean. You're trying to what most people are trying to do is fulfill themselves, and I guess yeah, kind of get lost in thought a lot, I guess.
No, it's all good, man. There's this one story that I heard once that really put things into perspective for me, and I'm probably gonna butcher this, but I heard this story of this fisherman, and he was in like some native third world country, and he would go and he would fish, he would catch like three fish, um, you know, reel them in, take them home, feed his family, and then whatever. Then like, he would come back the next day, and then all of a sudden there was this Harvard grad who came to the country to visit, and he had a MBA in business or whatever, and he saw the fisherman, and then he noticed that the fisherman kept coming back every day, and he would catch 2 to 3 fish, and then he would leave and come back, and the guy was like, "Hey, why don't you fish a little longer and catch 6 fish, and then you won't have to come back every single day?" And the fisherman was like, "Well, no, because the 2 to 3 fish is all the food I need to support my family. I get my 2 3 fish, I take them home, feeds my wife and my kids, and then I can play with my kids in the park, and I can go salsa dancing with my wife at night, and then I can talk to my friends and drink my beer, and then go to sleep and do it all over again the next day." And then the corporate guy was like, "Okay, that's fine, but you know what? I have a degree in business. Let me tell you what you could do that'll make your life so much better." Is what you could do is spend one day where you catch 6 fish, take 3 home to your family, and then sell the other 3. And if you keep doing that, you can keep saving up that money, and then you can buy a boat. And now with your boat, when you go out, you can catch 10 fish at a time. And then you can use that extra money from the fish and then hire I don't know, like another worker to help you. And the fisherman was like, "Oh, okay, so then what do I do after that?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, so once you have that worker, then you can hire a third guy, you can hire a manager to hire a second boat and a third boat and a second fisherman and a third fisherman, and now you're catching 100 fish a day." And the fisherman goes, "Oh, okay, so then what do I do after that?" And he goes, "Oh, good question. What you do is you take that business model that you've created to a local fishery, and you go, 'Hey, I developed this business as a sole proprietor. I have all these boats and I have all these employees, and we're catching all these fish and we're making a profit, and I want to join your corporation.'" And the fisherman goes, "Okay, yeah, wow, that sounds awesome. Sounds like a lot of money, but what do I do after that?" And then the guy goes, "You take your business, you can you can sell your corporation, you can cash out for millions, and then on the weekends you can go and spend your time just fishing for food, bring that fish home to feed your family, then you can go play with your kids in the park, then you can go salsa dancing with your wife, and then you can drink alcohol with your friends." And the fisherman is like, "That sounds like the life I'm living right now." Right? So it's like the story of more is not always better, right? You don't always have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to more and more and more and more and more. And after hearing this story, I thought about it a lot, and I realized like there's this one key lesson, and the one key word in this lesson is the word enough. Eventually, you need to find a point where like what is enough, right? And I've realized like I don't need I don't need a mansion. I don't need a sports car. I don't need any of these materialistic things. These all mean nothing to me. And if I have a big enough house for my family, if I have one car that can take us around, and if I have enough money and savings, for food and education, or whatever my daughter wants to do, that is enough, right? And this concept of find out what your enough is and then strive towards that. And don't get caught up in this whole world of bigger is better. You want to get the the bachelor's degree, you want to get the master's degree, you want to be the manager, you want to be the vice president, you want to be the CEO. Like, no, you don't need all that stuff. You just need to find out what is enough for you as an individual and then just go after that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So I love the short story stuff. And I mean, yeah, it's that whole idea is definitely true, and I think a lot more people, if they could find their enough, would be infinitely happier with their life or current situation. And it's just that it's so contrary to society, and it's like it's always bigger is better, more is better. And when you hear this 24/7, it's incredibly hard to oppose that, I guess, because when everyone's telling you that, who are you to say otherwise? Because you have to almost be the contrarian, I guess. But I do agree that that definitely benefit a lot of people. And then I I also like that it's in the form of short story, because I think with stories, points and ideas hit a lot harder. And I would actually, in my downtime in this past year, like I said, we're all given iPads, and in my free time, because they blocked a lot of games and whatever, so I was like, all right, I'm not gonna play games when there's nothing to do. So I would go on Wikipedia and I would just read a ton of history about certain things that I thought were interesting, and I would read a ton of like Wikipedia synopsises of a ton of stories. And I am very interested. I was very interested in dystopia, apocalyptic, that genre of things, and just reading through all, like, I mean, I've read, like, they would just have this purple links because I would just read all of them, and that's where I got the appreciation for stories. I mean, that just goes back to perspective, um, and and how much I enjoy seeing other perspectives, because with apocalyptic and dystopic book or stories, you just get to see all the different ways people thought the world would end, or dystopias would be created from different time periods, and you'd see how they're influenced by wars at the time. And during the 40s era books, a lot of the dystopias were the results of fascism and things like that. And it's just the idea of stories, and I mean, it's the oldest form of learning and communication. I mean, because before people wrote things down, they told stories. And I think it's just a really, really good tool of getting things across and getting perspective. And I mean, you can get infinite stuff from stories, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's almost as if it's like a lost art. Like if you think about our education system, you're almost like buying a textbook and reading it pretty
Hmm.
much. Like that's what it's like in university. Like the teacher just kind of guides you. This is what you need to study. This is what you need to go over, and you kind of have to just self-educate yourself, and then pass your exams. And like stories is a way that human beings have passed down perspective and passed down enlightenment and passed down information from generation to generation. Because whenever I hear a story, something happens where like a switch goes off in my mind and I just fully absorb it. Like I just fully absorb the context and the nuance and the characters and the struggles they faced and the adversity and how they resolved it and what the conclusion was. And it's like a magical thing. And this is also kind of, I guess, why I sort of resonated towards YouTube and the whole video editing stuff. It's like what we're doing is we're kind of telling stories, right? Especially with like the type of content that I'm making and videos that I'm making. It's like I'm trying to share stories of my life that could hopefully help someone out there in the world that might not make the same mistakes that I made. Because again, no one is perfect, but if there is a story from my life that I could tell someone to where it could save years off their life of making a stupid decision, that is my goal here. That is my drive and my passion to like try to create a world that is better, not just for my daughter, but for the later generations. And again, like promote this idea that the jobs of today are not the jobs of tomorrow, and try to be open-minded of this whole radical shift that the world is going through nowadays. And it's just it blows my mind when people kind of just complain all the time. They complain and complain. They blame the government. They blame COVID. They blame whoever, the president, the prime minister, right? They blame the economy or the stock market, but they never stop and think about what they could do about it, and they can never take any action, right? And I think that at the end of the day is the most important thing to do is find a way to take action to change the things that you're not happy with in your life, and hopefully the world can get better.
Yeah, that's kind of a thing I've thought of with, because the world's like burning around us, so you could say, or whatever, and it's like blaming X and Y all day and night isn't gonna do anything. Um, I mean, unless you want to, start a revolution or something. I don't know, but
YouTube revolution.
yeah, but so that's why I think personally, it's like I just do what I know to be right and make sure that my presence in this mess doesn't contribute to the fire, kind of thing. And and the other thing I was interested in is you are also, very thought exploratory um and like stories and whatnot. So I thought it was interesting when you said you aren't very good with like history and English and instead with math and other subjects, because I'm awful at math and um I'm fine with like theoretical science and like idea science, but like physics and like writing down stuff I'm awful at. But I was really good in history, English, and stuff like that. So I think it's very interesting that you have all these like like mental ideas and trains of thought and whatnot, because most people who like excelled in like math and whatever, you would expect that they're more materialistic and would more look down upon the arty or more fluid thinking, I guess. So I think it's very, because you're very competent in this kind of thing. So I think it's interesting that you said you didn't like, or maybe not like, but didn't do well in like history and English and stuff
You
like
know
that.
what? I've thought about that, and I came to the conclusion that when I grew up in school, my grades were like this. It was like physics 88, mathematics 95, calculus 97, English 53, history 61, geography 58. Like it was super excelling top of the class on one spectrum, and then barely passing, like just barely scraping by like the worst in the class. Like that was the type of person I was, and I had an average in high school of a 70, but I had no courses that I got 70 in. Everything was like they're all polarized. It was like the best in the class or like absolute idiot, like the worst. And
Mhm.
that's what it was. But what I realized was that I was very good at numbers because they made sense to me. Like x plus y equals z, or one, you can find an answer that is 100% correct, and it made sense. Whereas something in English, it's kind of more subjective. You got to like think it through. You'd be like, okay, what is this? There's foreshadowing. What is it? This is a metaphor. Like what? Like it doesn't make any sense to me. But what was happening was I was taking the easy way out because math came naturally to me. I just gravitated towards it because I knew I could do well in it and I would get the correct answers. So when it came to history or English or writing or any of these creative aspects, I almost gave up before I even tried. And I wouldn't even attempt to try to do my best work. And eventually I would just fail. But what I realized was it's the difficult things in life that if you can go after them and if you can find a way to excel on the other end, man, you learn so much more. Like when I study really hard in physics and learned slopes and what do you call that things, integrals and all this other crazy nonsense. Yeah, okay, I learned something, but I kind of already knew it. It wasn't that much of a challenge. But when I really applied myself to the creative arts, to the writing, to the philosophy, to the sociology, I learned so much, and it was like an epiphany in my mind. It was like this explosion of knowledge and information and curiosity because I never challenged myself. I never challenged myself ever. Like I wouldn't read any of the books in English class. I would just read like I would go. There wasn't Google, but I would search for like Cliff Notes, book summary, read that in like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know the book. Write some half-ass essay, and I get like a 50, right? And then I'd be like, oh man, I'm just not a good person at English or creative stuff. But I wasn't applying myself. I wasn't challenging. I wasn't embracing those challenges. And it wasn't until like recently I write every single day. Every morning I write. I have like a Google Docs with like hundreds and hundreds of files of essays and paragraphs and all these crazy ideas that I have that I just write. I just write them all out. Sometimes they turn into YouTube videos. Sometimes they just turn into abstract thoughts and ideas. And these are the things that are extremely challenging to me. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is where I get the biggest growth as a human being. And this is where I improve rapidly. Whereas in the math, I kind of improve at a linear rate, if that makes any sense. But with this whole philosophy perspective stuff, I've improved exponentially over even especially the past couple of years. Whether it's the books I read, the creators, the content creators I follow, or the other podcasts that I listen to, I've almost achieved this level of self education that I never would have got at school. Because, oh, Derek, you're good in physics and math. You should do computer science. But, oh, maybe this whole time I should have went into philosophy, or maybe this whole time I should have went into something more in the arts, right? But I was too afraid to accept those challenges and learn from them. And that is why I'm like, oh man, like just because, numbers come easy to me, that doesn't mean I'm, a math person. And that maybe the correct path was the way of the creative. And this is what it's brought me. It's brought me happiness, right?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because we're pretty much opposites in that respect. Where with math, I wasn't interested in it. I mean, it felt good when I did understand something, but I really when I was in class, I mean, I would write the notes. I would not really try with the homework, to be honest, and I I I just like gave up essentially. It was like because I mean, in my family, like none of us are really good at math except my younger brother. But so it was like it was easier to rely on that too. It's like, oh, none of us are really good at math, so I would just take passing. I mean, I guess I would get like a C to a B. I'd say average overall, like a C plus in math or something like that. But I mean, because it's interesting, because I can see where like if you weren't like um didn't like or weren't good starting out with like English and history and whatnot, I can see how that would benefit you like mentally and help like your life, because I feel like those subjects give you a better mindset and better analytical approaches to life, because because analyzing stories, which is kind of like analyzing life, and you can look at life with the lens you gain from like English and learning about history and stuff like that, because history is a big story. And but it's interesting because I feel like if I did that with math and if I really applied myself, I still don't feel like I would have gotten as much out of it as you did with applying yourself in English and history. And that could
Mm.
be, I'd find that there's less value, I guess. And like, because I understand, where it's like the numbers aren't really important. It's about the mental struggle of figuring out the process and how that can help in other areas. But I feel like it just hasn't really, I mean, I guess I wouldn't fully know because I never really like applied myself in math, I suppose. But I guess just theoretically, I feel like I guess I'm just biased more towards the mental subjects, and I just feel like which does get a lot of kickback, because you ask like a normal student, it's like which subject being good at would help you more in life. English, they'd say math, like all the time, because like, well,
Yeah.
finances, whatnot. And I mean, on my PSAT, I don't know, do you guys have the PSAT? It's just,
Probably something with a different acronym.
yeah, it's just like some standardized test or whatever, but it was like supposed to be like a gauge for how good it had math and English essentially. And I scored a little below average in math, but it wasn't like crazy or anything, but I scored above average in English. Since the beginning, I was very defined of what I was and wasn't good at. And I mean, I used to work at Papa John's, and me and my friend were arguing about it, about which would value you more, is being good at reading and stuff like that, or being good at math. And I guess I just take the side of the more mental things, and I just can't. I guess I just can't see it. I mean, there probably is, but from my perspective, I can't see all the benefits that applying myself in math would bring, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes sense, and like the way I kind of think about it, everyone gets put into these boxes. It's either you have a math brain or you have an English brain. Are you good with numbers or are you good with words? Well, what if there is more to just two boxes? Like, what if for me, the correct box was the one that challenged me the most? Like, which was the biggest difficulty for me? Maybe that is what incurred the highest amount of growth and the highest potential. Whereas maybe for other people, maybe they crumbled in the face of challenges. Maybe they crumbled to adversity. So they need to stick in that box that they're good at. Maybe they need to stay with the numbers because that's what that makes sense to them. That's what they know. That's what they know as a truth. And it's hard because I feel like this is like a more um, subjective thing to think about because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm just not a math person." I'm like, okay, you're not a math person, but how hard have you tried? Like, how hard have you applied yourself? It's like me.
Mm,
Oh, I'm not an English person, but have you read any of the books? Have you tried to write a proper thesis? Have you tried to understand like the the foreshadowing stuff in the Shakespeare? Not like have you even tried to apply yourself? And when I think about it, it's like I would half-ass it. I wouldn't even try. Oh, but we're doing physics today. Oh, I'm all in. I'm so ready to go. I know all these answers. You know what I mean? There's like a different energy that people use towards a subject that they think they're good at or they think that they're naturally poor at. And I feel like it's a much bigger bigger problem than just either left or right, one or two, this box or that box. And it's a difficult thing because for teachers it's easy to be like, oh, you're just naturally better with numbers, right? But it could be, or it could not be, or maybe it could be something completely different that we don't even know about, right? And so, like, again, if I just stayed on the math route, maybe I never would have found this love for information and this love of ideas and this love of sharing knowledge. Maybe I would just be like some dude coding all day or doing accounting or doing balancing the books. Like maybe that's what I would be doing right now. And what would happen? I'd probably be hating my life, right? So that's a possibility too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if we do want to use the two boxes, I guess you could also say, well, each each math and English propose different challenges and different ideas that you explore that are unique to each. And, you know, just because you're good with one aspect of one box doesn't mean that you should be placed in or fully pursue that box. Maybe I think what I would feel would probably be more accurate is each of the boxes with the different ideas and challenges maybe or things to be learned from each box. Maybe it's more like a picking out from both or and that doesn't really work if these are some on the fly ideas. This is what it's all about though. See, that's the other thing with like English and stuff is I didn't like organizing a thesis and like supporting it and like putting in the citing sources and whatever. What I really like about this stuff is just the essentially a what's it called? Just speaking thought. What's it called? Like free flow of just whatever, just or speaking aloud and just saying the ideas as they come out. And I mean, as I just saw, it wasn't fully fleshed out, but I like that much more, that free flowing of just new information that you think about and theorize that isn't fully fleshed out, and you flesh it out through talking it out and instead of putting it in these boxes of you know, I guess that's where you get like paper, like English or like criticism papers, maybe. I guess. Well, I guess more fluid information. I guess I prefer. Yeah.
Hey, dude, we crushed it. We had a lot of good conversation. We did over 2 hours of just
Yeah.
mental acrobatics.
We did it. We really did it.
Yeah, dude, this was a wonderful conversation. Let's wrap up the pod.
Mm.
Let's tell the people where they can find your work, Instagram, socials, all that stuff.
Yeah, my YouTube, which I think has my old music videos, it's just Bemuse on YouTube, Bemuse. And then the only other thing I use is Twitter for like client work and stuff, and that's at Bemuse, and then with just two eyes at the end. But yeah, I'm not. I mean, that goes back to mental stuff. I think straying a little bit for average person is a good thing in my mind, which is what I tend to do. But I mean, yeah, that's my social. But yeah, it's been really fun, very enlightening. This conversation, these conversations.
And man, I learned too from listening to your perspective and even just working out some of my own thoughts. So yeah, so you guys heard it here. If you need a video editor, reach out to Joe. It's Bemuse, Bemuse. And thanks everyone for listening in, and thanks Joe for doing the pod.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, peace, peace, peace.